Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Ryan here from United Parents for Children News. I have Kara Witkowski with us. Did I
Hello.
pronounce? And Kara, first off, I wanted to express my deepest sorrow for everything that you've been going through. Our prayers, my family's prayers and friends here in Kentucky are definitely with yours and your families, as well as everybody here at the UPC family. But I do want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to sit and talk with us. Um, Going to spend some time here going over a few little things that the GAL, Julie Pirtle, has, some of her statements and everything, and wanted to give you some time to talk about your experience with a quote guardian ad litem. So again, thanks for joining us. Let's go ahead and we'll start back in the beginning when Julie first got involved with the case. I believe it was, you said earlier that it was May 2019 that she first came in. How did that go about? How did she get assigned to the case?
So it wasn't in May. It was in March. So March 25th, I had gotten an emergency order of protection, and on April 11th, I had to go back to get the plenary order of protection. So actually, she came into place in April. So April 11th, Thomas, my ex, James' father, he admitted to raping me in front of the judge. And he admitted that he had multiple personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and antisocial personality disorder, which is sociopathy. So the judge decided to appoint a guardian ad litem. So this is Judge John G. Dalton of Kane County, Illinois, in the Kane County Judicial Center. And he asked Scott Sheen, who is my ex's, Tom Jerry Beal's attorney, if they had anyone in mind. And they specifically said Julie Pirtle. So at that point, I was a little sketched out because it sounded like they had already planned on this specific person to be appointed. So what happened was they said that I would have to pay half. At this point, I was represented by my attorney, Melissa Couple. So I paid half of her retainer, which was $750. I met with this woman, and she said that both me and Thomas need to have psych evals done, which I said I have no problem doing that. Thomas was also supposed to have a psych eval done. This woman came to my house. At this point, I had full custody of my kids. Thomas had supervised visits. And the first thing she said was, "Everything's so clean." It's like, okay, thanks. She goes, "How do you keep everything so clean when you have two kids?" It's like, I don't know. I just keep my house clean. I thought it was a really odd statement to make, that she seemed weirded out that my house was so clean. And then one of the things I remember clearly is she had a My Little Pony stuffed animal for my daughter, and she had nothing for my son. And she gave this My Little Pony stuffed animal to my daughter, and then she took her in the back of my home, which is where the pack and play is with all the toys. And she started trying to talk to my daughter. And she was saying things like, "Did mommy ever hurt you?" And my daughter said, "No, I love mommy." And she said, "I know you do." And she seemed kind of distraught that my daughter was telling her that she loved me. I asked her if she had any questions for me. She said no. And then she left. I had multiple encounters with this woman. One that I remember specifically was May 2nd. May 2nd, we were supposed to have an evidentiary hearing based on the emergency motion that mine and my attorney put forth on April 24th. Now, this emergency motion stated that there were videos of my daughter stating that her grandpa was sexually abusing her and physically abusing her, as well as her father that was physically abusing my son. And this was all in video. The videos were sent to Julie Pirtle, and she still made the decision to recommend Tom for custody. Now, the other thing that this emergency motion stated was that Thomas had admitted to raping me in court. He admitted to all of these specific mental disorders, which the GAL also knew about, that I had a 2-year order of protection, that there was an ongoing investigation regarding my rape, there was an ongoing investigation regarding child pornography, and there was an ongoing DCFS investigation due to the Elgin police involving DCFS because of the investigation they had with the child porn and the investigation they had with my rape. Now, before any of this was even determined, the judge, Judge John G. Dalton, decided that the only protection that he would put in place on that day regarding my emergency motion was that he said my children could not see their grandfather. To which Thomas's attorney responded, but Thomas lives with his father. And the judge said, Judge John G. Dalton, well, he can just go in another room. And that was when the evidentiary hearing was called for May 2nd. So I go into now we're fast forwarding to May 2nd. I go in, my lawyer is there, and the judge wants to take it into conference. He wants to have a conference with the GAL, my attorney, himself, and my ex's attorney. And my attorney said, no, we are not doing that. We are going to have it out here. I want Kara to see what's going on. And that's when I first noticed how despicable this woman was. Because the entire evidentiary hearing was supposed to be about Tom and his father. And the entire time she's talking about me having PTSD and not being a good influence on my kids.
Right.
Yeah. So that was when I first noticed, okay, there's definitely something up here. So she was lying through her teeth, and she was stating that my daughter was showing sexual behaviors, but she was stating that it was my fault that that was happening, and that it was due to one of my family members and not his, when my daughter hadn't even seen anyone in my family except for me and my mother while having visitation. So I called her the following day and I asked her what her reason was for doing that. And she said she couldn't tell me. And I asked her point blank, I go, what is going on here? Because I don't trust you and I don't understand the way you were acting. And she said, word for word, quote unquote, if I told you, you wouldn't like it. And it was shortly after that that this woman stopped responding to a majority of my phone calls. And even when I would email her, she would ignore them. And every single time we would go into court, she would state that I was keeping the children from Tom, that I was putting ideas into my kids' heads. She was the majority reason why the emergency petition went on May 15th. And this was when I was at work. They did an emergency petition stating that because I had PTSD, that I could potentially kill my children. Now, they didn't have any evidence of this, and they still went ahead and they took my children. And then Thomas actually sent a message to one of my best friends and the person that they appointed to be my court-appointed supervisor without even notifying her, to go check on me because I was probably suicidal or was going to harm myself. So this was all a complete setup from the beginning. They knew exactly what they were doing. Thomas had repeatedly had police officers come to my home stating that I was suicidal. And every single time they did this, I was either at work or I was at home perfectly fine playing with my kids and enjoying their company. So there's not one police report that ever stated that there was any danger to my children, which Julie Pirtle also knew about. She was given every single documented time where the police came to my house and Thomas or someone in his family stated that I was suicidal.
Right. And of course, all the police reports were submitted as evidence. And how many times do you think that he called in on you?
It was between 7 and 9 times.
So well beyond what would be considered harassment, and nothing was ever said about it in court.
I'm sorry, I lost you.
So if it's between 7 and 9 times, that would be well beyond the limit, which what most people would consider harassment at that point. Correct.
Right. And even the police officers said, we're going to see if we can have this be a harassment charge because of your order of protection.
And at some point, somebody was blocking.
Yeah, it was the state's attorney that decided not to go forward with that.
Okay. So, but what we do have though from the Elgin Police Department is a report though based off of a conversation that let me get her name, Lark Cyrus with the Victim Services Department.
My therapist, and she was the domestic violence expert at the Elgin Police Station.
Let me share a bit of this report, and we'll spend a couple of minutes on it because there's some contradictions in the guardian ad litem's finding or report that was introduced in your case versus the report the Elgin Police Department, or at least a representative of the police department, released. And definitely want to take a look at that real quick here. Let me share this so we can all take a look at the report while we talk about it. Now, was this sent directly to you, or was this sent to a lawyer or something?
No, it was sent directly to me, and it was given to Scott Sheen, my ex's attorney, Julie Pearl, the guardian ad litem, and I tried to give it multiple times to Judge Dalton and my new judge, Renee Cruz, because Judge Dalton actually recused himself.
Yep, and that was a recent, probably 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Yes.
Recusal. Okay. What was before we jump into this, what was the grounds of the recusal? Was it ex parte?
He stated that he could no longer be fair to Mrs. Witkowski, and that was exactly what he said on transcript. And he also said that he had been exposed to too much ex parte communication.
A judge that can't be fair. I think that goes against their oath, doesn't it?
I would think so.
Yeah, because a judge is supposed to be non-biased. They're supposed to take the facts and make a decision based off of the facts that they find is presented in front of them. And this report that we're looking at here, again, is from, look, you can see it right here, Elgin Police Department stamped all over it. And it's even signed. You'll see on the next page when we go to it, everybody, it's signed from a representative from the police department. So, but this was based off of a conversation that she had with the guardian ad litem, guardian in quotes, because they're obviously not guarding anything. The conversation, as you can see, took place on August 7th, 2019. Looks like Julie had called and requested the opinion on whether Kara was a potential danger to her children or not. And as you can see, you can go on, you can see that the guardian ad litem is potentially steering the conversation. We don't have a transcript of the conversation. If that was to be obtained, that would be very beneficial, I guess, to everything that's going on. But the report says it all. You can see here. And Kara, do you want to hit on any of these, or just want me to go through and talk on it?
I would definitely like you to hit on where she was trying to persuade my therapist into stating that I would murder my children based upon stories that she heard about other people and no actual evidence.
Okay. We will find that one here. As we're scrolling through, one thing here you can see, and kind of piggybacking off what you just said, you can see plainly right here, she stated she believed, based on stories she had read about other people, that Kara would do anything to keep her children away from their father out of spite for him, including going as far as to murder them. Then this representative, speaking here in her report, stated that Ms. Pirtle, that she could not join her down that rabbit hole of thinking. Clearly, this GAL is trying to push her opinions and her personal vendetta against you onto this police official.
That is correct. And so I'm sure Ryan will show you the actual report. But what's really interesting is in the report, she states that police officers are saying that I'm a danger to my children, and that the detective who investigated my rape and saw the texts as well as the Facebook messages where Thomas admitted to raping me and being a danger to my children is stating that I'm the danger. And it's just really interesting because the person that we're talking about right now is a therapist for the Elgin Police Department who is an expert in domestic violence and has been doing this for 30 plus years. And she is stating in her report that I am not a danger and that I love my children and that she would be just as upset if she was going through what I had to go through.
Exactly. Now, I want you to say again, just in case anybody missed it, how many years experience?
30 plus years of experience.
I mean, that's almost my entire life. That's your entire life and then some of experience. At what point does a person who's put themselves on a pedestal and really has a God complex? I mean, here we got it right here in fantasy. Fantasy is a key to this whole report that we're getting ready to take a look at that the GAL released, because it is a fantasy. You can see it, and I want to. You pointed on something a minute ago on the report. We're going to jump back and forth on it, but you can see in this report, this 30 plus years individual representative of the Elgin Police Department states, I could not join her down that rabbit hole of thinking. So everything that the GAL is trying to persuade this representative to believe, or at least to agree to, doesn't have to believe it. She's just trying to get her to say one thing that she can use as some sort of agreement.
Mm-hmm.
But it all boils back to fantasy.
If you go to the next page of that report, the entire paragraph